So I think that perhaps to me what leadership is it's not some flashy cars, flashy jets. It's the moment you have the next person working for you, the people who are working for you. You hire people to give you the best ideas. There are occasions where you hire people just for the task. That's perfectly great. But if you're developing a team, which we have had, the editors we had, the head of brand, and everyone, they're gone. They have been with me from day one, and my always had job has been to what is it that they need that I can serve them, and I think that's what to me leadership is, and I feel like the need of it is slightly bit more with AI that the roles are changing everywhere now, and yes,
Yeah.
it's quite tricky how to navigate that.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm in the studio today with a very special guest, Waleed. How are you?
Thank you
Waleed
for having
Khalid.
me.
How are you?
I'm amazing. This is my first ever recording in New York.
Oh, really?
So I've never done a podcast in New York, so this is special.
Amazing. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I
Yes.
can be the first one that you're doing.
Yes.
So, one of my favorite things about this podcast is introducing you to people that who aren't just successful, but are creating meaningful impact. And I consider you one of those people.
Thanks
So, today's guest, I have had the privilege of working side by side on multiple occasions. We've collaborated presenting talks through his organization, Oxford Talks, at Oxford University and Harvard University. And soon I'll be collaborating again as a founding member in an engagement at Davos during the World Economic Forum. Waleed is the founder and CEO of Oxford Talks, an organization dedicated to bringing thought leaders and transformative ideas to audience around the world. And what I admire most isn't simply your success in creating stages for speakers, but you believe that ideas have the power to change lives.
They certainly do, and I thank you so much for that introduction.
Of
I think the story goes back to when I was working with TED before, and there was this moment when I was kind of leaving TED, where someone would just go up on stage, and they had this kind of like a weird. It's a project I don't know if it's still running called the Audacious Project, where someone would go up on stage and be like, "If you give me $10 million or $15 million, I can eliminate trachoma from Africa."
Really?
And then the people in the audience would be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be part of it and we're gonna fund that." To me that was just groundbreaking, like how whether it happens or it doesn't, that's operational things,
Mhm.
but just in that moment it felt so inspiring and it felt so motivational. I was 19 when I saw that, and I'm 30 now, so
Wow.
I haven't changed. I haven't, as I'm doing the exact same thing for the last 11 years.
That's amazing. Well, I've had the opportunity to know you professionally.
Yes.
And I want everyone listening, though, to know a little bit more about you personally.
Okay.
Who is Waleed, and where did you? I'm going to give you just a couple kind of thought starters. What first sparked your love of learning and new ideas and innovation?
I think for me, I was said with my mom. I think she was growing up watching her. She was a fashion designer, and to me, what I kind of learned about business, and my grandfather, he was like a clothing merchant. So it was kind of like I saw like she had her own kind of like a boutique where the girls brides to be, they would come in the shops, and it's all custom design, like you pick this thing and that thing, and I will just be watching like customizing thing, and she would be like, this would look good, this would not look good, it would go with this color, that color, and then a month down the line they would come in and they'll be like crying and like, oh my god, this looks so beautiful. And to me it's like, of course it's a business, so I'm behind the counter like a child sitting and just watching all of this.
Observing.
And I think for me that kind of stayed with me, that you can create things out of, I mean, they just look at things as a catalog of things.
Mhm.
They don't see it in reality. Like you can create things for others that they can use, and it can have such an emotional effect on someone. To me, I think that was the kind of inception. And then when I went to uni at Oxford Brookes, I think it just naturally happened that they didn't have any kind of a TEDx program then. So I created one, and from day one it was such a huge thing because the name Oxford Brookes University started getting used in the official namings that we were using. So first, like as first year, you go into the uni, you're just focused on studies. But I was having meetings with the vice chancellors and everything because they're like, oh, what's this kid doing? And I felt like, okay, this is cool stuff. I'm a cool person around here. I mean, and very, very, and I think to that point, to what's happening now, literally in 2, 3 weeks ago, someone we did a script for them, and and I narrated the script back to them, like, oh, this is what we have created. Absolute they're absolutely crying, they're pouring down in, like, with tears.
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking, like, it's just a full circle back to my mother's kind of a
Oh, like
thing.
that same moment.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it's like you're creating things for other people
Sure.
that is just she's like, I cannot believe, like, in 10 minutes of a thing, like, someone has just summarized my life to me. So it's like it's been going on for last, like, as one can think of their professional life or their kind of like adult life. Like, I was 14, 15 when I was watching that, and it's almost like 15 years now.
I love the connection to that, and it was like such a different business
Yeah,
too. But it
yeah,
was
yeah,
really it was really the connection, the
yeah.
emotional connection that you tapped into, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
There are countless conferences
Yes.
and speaking events around the world. What made you decide there needed to be something different with what you created?
I love that question. I think for us, it's the what happens after the lights are off at the stage. I think that's the most important part, because I've been into the TED atmosphere, and I've been to so many other conferences. I think it's all that's a very much like a media play, and I don't think so. The world and individuals in 2026 need another kind of like a stage for, like, oh, I don't have an outlet for my ideas. Back in 1994 when TED started, yes, there was a need for, there was no internet,
Hmm.
so there was a need for such a thing. I think today where we quote unquote in business language where we differentiate ourselves is that what more can you do in this kind of arbitrary world of what happens after an idea gets shared? And it's just it's so weird, it's hard, it's there's just so many kind of, because we don't do one thing, like someone just comes with an idea, someone helping them literally means introducing them to help someone can make them their website.
Hmm.
Someone can be introduced to like a VC firm or a family office. Someone can be introduced to a corporate. So there's just so many parts to that, and we like it doing it because it keeps us kind of on our toes. That otherwise the media part, we feel like there's no kind of a technical challenge to that anymore, that we don't think so that what we do, any random challenge would come up in the next 12 months or 18 months that would be like, oh my god, we're scratching our head how to film this. That's not the case. It's always just like, what is the diversity of ideas people are bringing in, and how we can accommodate, literally move the needle to the next stage.
Mm.
Because and that has happened now because we're doing it such a long time. There was this company in Switzerland where I think they came in, and it was such a small startup. We did a talk together. It was about what is really value. It's about money and fintech. That company is worth $2 billion.
Hmm.
They gave me some shares initially in the company as well, which I sold very soon. I was like, I don't think this is gonna. Had I kept those, I would have been a millionaire myself as well. So I think that kind of I want to use the word kind of adrenaline junkie to that, but like we're constantly chasing that kick. That, okay, if we help this person, how big this can go.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had some conversations where
Yeah,
this is like resonating, where it's not just about this in this moment and
yeah,
this. And almost what I like about what you said is that, the TEDx stage or like conference and the talk you give, it's one thing, it's one time, it's over, right?
yeah,
And even if there's video, but like this is more than that,
yeah.
because it's then how does that evolve and how does that grow and how does that help and what does that become? And also you are for sure a visionary and purposeful, in that you've said to me, if we help others, like we grow, you grow,
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
you grow, we grow. And so I think that shows in kind of your mission and
Yeah.
everything you do, and I love that. Can you think of a speaker or conversation that surprised you, one that changed the way that you think? I'd love to ask this question to people in
It's a
this
tricky
space.
one,
Mhm.
because there's so many of them. I think I can tell you, I can remember one which has had the most kind of profound effect, but it happens all the time. Like every talk that we do, it's like it's a very weird feeling as well. Like, and I love to use the examples from like cinema world. Like, how I mean, it's a terrible example. I'm not sure it's a good one. I was thinking of how Lord Voldemort, like he left part of him in like different things, and Harry had to kill all of that to kill. I mean, that's a negative way, but all the scripts we do, there's a part of kind of like me that lives in those scripts. So I really feel personally resonated with each and everything that I've ever done. But one thing, sometimes it kind of rebounces back from the other side, like you're like, oh my god, this is shocking. It was this guy who, I'm not sure he's still at Oxford. He was the head of careers at Oxford University, and his job was to help incoming MBA students to help get placed in jobs and all of that. And MBA is a very kind of a stressful environment. You got
Mm-hmm.
8 months, and so much money has been poured into
Yeah.
it, and companies are like, okay, we are paying to train you. What are we
Mm-hmm.
getting out of it? So they are like, okay, looking for jobs, changing jobs, and all of that. And he had this one line which was completely for a different thing, but it resonated with me very on a personal level. It was like, do not take these things as transactional. Take them as a journey. Even if it's a rejection, it will help you with something else. And by God, that is just so true for life. So much of our life that when sometimes going gets tough and you're like, transaction, like I don't care. And I initially, at the very beginning, I thought that it's true. That's that. As a businessman, you're running a thing. You have to be ruthless. You have to, you see those movies, and Steve Jobs was this and that, and you're like, oh, I've got to be like that. But my personal experience, and now after doing it for 10 years, 11 years, completely the opposite.
Yeah.
The more kindness, I think it's thrown around as a negative thing. It's not at all. It's
Mm-hmm.
the most brilliant strategy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you can have some empathy for someone in that situation, the business will come.
Yeah.
But that moment you can't let go.
It's such a great point. What resonates there also is that really, like, there are people who get that and
Yeah,
people who don't.
yeah,
And there are businesses that get that and businesses who don't. So even like in the customer service realm, it's when it's focused on this transaction, great, you might,
yeah,
make a great sale, but is that person coming back to you?
yeah,
Right. And even if you failed them, how do you make it right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
that's just basic relationship,
yeah,
and investing and creating that relationship long term and helping, and as you said, kindness, that's part
yeah,
of it. So I think that the more that we can push those
yeah,
conversations to have people see or realize that, I think it's better for all of
yeah,
us. It's better for business, and the outcome would be better for them. When I
yeah,
talk to CEOs and like, well, we can't do that because this time, okay, so why? You're going to lose money on this sale,
yeah.
but you're going to lose the lifetime of
Yes,
then
yes,
having what comes after that,
and
and your
exactly that. Yeah,
reputation and the goodwill. And so I think it sits in that. And I think from a leadership perspective, I think we share this. It's the same. It's that, investing in that relationship is then, and with the kindness and the commitment or investment in
yeah,
that person, and not just for yourself, right?
yeah, yeah.
It ends up being mutually better,
Beneficiary. And
beneficial.
I'll literally exactly that word that you said, lifetime value. And
Hmm.
I was even doing the calculations with the accountant the other day that for Apple, the lifetime value of one person in an Apple ecosystem is around $18,000 to $24,000 across 10 to 15 years.
Hmm.
For us, it's 10 times that in 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. And you know
So yeah,
what's also interesting is that this is I'll share with you, this is a realization for me recently. Is obviously, I came from this mindset of how to do business and from a customer service perspective, and also how to market and how to um really do it in a mission driven way, for lack of a better word, for doing good,
yeah,
right? And I think in the climate, we've lost a little bit of focus on relationship building and rapport. And, everybody knows the word networking,
yeah,
but really developing relationships to then, what does that do? Not just to help someone and being there to say, hey, how can I serve? Or what do you need from me?
yeah.
And making introductions and building relationships with other people that can introduce you to others and
That's
help
just
one another.
businesses.
That's
Yeah,
just business,
yeah.
right? And that's like from decades ago. Like, that's how we
Yeah.
started. That's all we had.
Yeah.
We didn't have lead gen, we didn't have conversion and digital marketing and all of
Relationships.
this and
Yeah.
all that. And so the realization for me was like, here I am now, like, I'm about to acquire another company that's built completely on relationships. It's
Yeah.
about who they know and getting into certain organizations and making connections. Well, that's how I built my business. I did no marketing, all referral based. And so the realization for me is like, here we are in 2026, and all this noise about how to market, it focuses on the transaction,
Yeah.
not on building that relationship and really what
Yeah.
we're talking about
And
here.
there have been companies around way, way bigger than I think since the kind of like dawn of capitalism, like with East India Dutch Company and Apple and so like I don't think so. If your reels are performing well, like you are a bad person.
Right,
Just
right,
yeah.
right. Of course, of
It's
course.
yeah, business is way much than I guess it's a great distribution channel. I think today, as you're absolutely right, so much focus has gone on to that transaction of how can I make it something clickbaity. People watch it and I sell it, and I think that has, which is all the VCs are pouring money down into. Do you have a
Yes,
distribution channel? If
of
not,
course.
okay, we're not. But I think people are missing the bigger picture, which you just said. Yeah,
Agreed. And I'm gonna bring up two things in response to something you said earlier, but I'll close this part of it. I'll talk about my dad for a moment. My dad worked, obviously, he's passed now, but he worked for the same company for 35 years.
yeah,
And I'm not going to speak to what the reputation of that company is today because I don't even think they exist in the Sears Roebuck as the company. And he told us about a conversation that they had with manager, district manager, and came in and held up it was for employees, and held a pair of sneakers that were all ripped and dirty. And they said, if a customer came in and said, I want to return these, what's the answer?
Hmm.
Well, some people are like, well, it depends on how long. Some people are like, no way, look at those,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And he's like, nope, no matter what, you give the customer their money back.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was like, what?
We are losing
I
business.
mean, this is a long time ago,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But to think about that, a company back then that definitely had long success had that mindset, and it was
yeah,
from that
yeah,
era when I think maybe that was more common. Um, but look at it now, what we're talking about, and how they knew there was more value in that customer being satisfied
yeah. They will come
than
back.
losing the money
Yeah,
in that one return, whatever
yeah,
it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
So.
They will come back. They'll buy 5 other sneakers if you do
Right,
that. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And what's amazing is it's so simple and everybody understands that, but people lose focus of that
I don't
in the
know.
day to day.
I think there's something to do with the marketing aspect of it that
Yeah.
you can, especially with AI, creating products tends to becomes more easier now, but marketing has overtaken everything else
Yeah.
to a point where can we be more dramatic? Can we be more provocative? And let everything else be on the backside. But I think even I've seen it's like you see your product, it's being marketed in such a way, but the moment you enter their headquarters, it's a completely different feeling.
Yeah.
On marketing, is there bright colors and it's
Mhm.
energy and soda opening here, da 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 da. And then when you go into the office, and it's like there's just no energy in there. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, wow. There needs to be a kind of a similarity between what you show people and what you actually it is.
Right, and isn't that such a commentary, right, on
Yeah.
social media? It's like I have a friend who she always buys the hype on social media, and she'll be like recommending places, and
Yes.
I'm like, this did not live up to what it looked like
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
social media. And like, even people do that, right? This is what they're presenting and putting out there, but what's the real
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
deal behind it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's true. I think the marketing and all of that sometimes, you know, uh,
Overtakes actually
overtake. Yeah.
there's a very there's a very very old kind of a Steve Jobs I've got like he's talking about I think Japanese marketing is like a clip I heard ages ago. It's like the in America and kind of Western Europe and UK, we have this culture of advertising as the quality of the product. If the advertising is great, it speaks to the quality of the product. But he said that they are not winning any advertising awards. I mean, the fact that they're advertising awards is a completely different kind of a thing. because you look at Japanese products back in the day. I mean, even today, Japanese products are really good. Like Sony, the Walkman, and all of that. They didn't do any marketing. So he was really, and I picked up from them like Silicon Valley kind of attitude that make product really great. It will speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I think it worked great for some physical products in the beginning, but then again for SaaS, I think it was quite good. I think it's getting a bit lost now because making a product is very easy now, whether it's digital. I think physical is still a bit of a challenge, but I think that art is a bit lost now. That even if it's a terrible product, if we just pour into marketing, same happening in movies as well. I come from the world of
Yes.
media, like
Yeah.
you'll hear trailers after trailers after trailer. Fine, I'm gonna go to the theater, watch it. Tanks,
Yeah. It's
absolutely bad.
terrible.
And then they're not making any kind of love stories are not a thing anymore. Like no one's gonna pour 100 million because they're like we can't make it like more provocative enough. Like it's just two people in love. Like let's make some action heroes and kill people, do this and all of that. So yeah, it's everywhere, but it's a fascinating ride. But I think I have a bit of an old soul in me. I think back in the day, I think those values are quite good
Yeah.
for
Agreed.
products. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. So I'm fascinated by what happens before someone walks onto the stage.
Yes.
And, obviously I have experienced your production and the process and all of that. It's very different than any other talk that I've done. So I know that you do a lot of curation and you do
Yes.
a lot of development. You don't just invite speakers, you develop them.
Yeah.
So my question is, what in your mind makes a compelling speaker? And I'll do a two-part question. What mistakes do people make when they think they're giving a great talk and that's the end of it?
And for both, the answer is just one word: the audience. I think what makes a great talk is the time and the place and the kind of the ecosystem in which that talk is being presented. If the talk is being talking about solar system, but you are some scientist who works at NASA, and is designed to be delivered to the staff at NASA, but then you show up at the kindergarten. It was the most brilliant talk, but kids are like, "What the hell is this thing?" Same goes vice versa. So I think a lot of the nuances, and for me, I feel you look at historical perspectives, like Martin Luther King's talk, Barack Obama's inauguration speech, and all of those things. I think if you take them out from the context and put them in, imagine Martin Luther King he did a TV broadcast of that. Would have had the same effect? Probably not.
Mm.
And the way that talk was developed, and like people who you hear about, like he was making tweaks to that speech, like even last minute. I have a dream, this, and then you can definitely do tricks to that. For example, repetition is one thing. Like you can repeat, I have a dream, that one day this, one day that. I think you can, the tricks can come to that, but I think first of all, you got to be self-aware that who you're speaking to.
Right.
If you're not sure, sometimes it is the case that you're just starting on that journey, then you just got to do repetition. And that's why I said, like, we're not in a competition with TED or any other platform. I would recommend people to do TED Talks or TEDx Talks. Your local councils are doing some things, go there. Even at birthday parties, just throw in a speech here and there. The more because you don't know at the beginning who am I speaking to, sometimes you think that this is my audience, but the moment you put it out there, you'll be like, oh, completely random audience starts to form. So that sometimes people force their way on that. Like Maria's like, talk to me about leadership. And I'm like, I want to sell you shoes. And you're like, really, I'm just not interested in buying shoes. I can buy it myself.
Right.
But they look how great they are. They make you look like this and da, da, da. So that's the number one. And number two, yeah, I think the same answer again. Literally, if the audience is kind of receptive to that, you got to find it where it is. Sometimes it's in your local community. Sometimes it's 7,000 miles away in a different community. So that if you're beginning, try as much as possible. Try to go birthday speeches. I don't know, local speeches, your high school, wherever you get a chance,
Yeah.
go there and find out who's actually clicking. And sometimes, even if you don't get a chance to speak to people, you can just tell by the eyes. Like if I'm talking to you and someone is like,
Yeah.
on their mobile, and okay, this is not resonating with them. And for the right person, I'm telling you, there was a time in New York where pet stones was a thing.
Pet stones.
Yes,
Yeah, I think I remember this
yes.
actually working here
And
for so many years.
someone sold it. There was marketing on it.
Yeah.
So you can do
Pet
anything.
rocks.
Pet rocks. Sorry, pet rocks. Pet rocks. There's Gary. There's Murphy. There's
That's hysterical.
yeah. So I'm like, if you can do that, and then they're having their own gatherings. Oh, I'm gonna bring my pet. Are you gonna bring your pet? It's just crazy how the world is. So the moment you find kind of your niche, that that's the end.
You know, what I love about what you said, I'm thinking about even just my own journey and some of the things that resonated for me is that even, I've been presenting for many, many, many
Yes.
years, right? And so to respond to a couple things you said, I've definitely had those moments where I'm there to do a job. I have a company who asked me to come in and train on XYZ, and I do, but I want to inspire people,
Yeah.
I want to inspire people to kind of make the connection with what I'm saying and really intrinsically take it in, not because they were told to go to that meeting,
Yeah.
right? And so when I'm saying something in a way, and there's many speakers and performers who say this, right? And I see a reaction, right?
Yeah.
And not even somebody coming up and saying anything to me or raising their hand and asking a question, just the reaction where you see it click or you see the wheels turning, then that helps you understand, okay, I've cut through the noise here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you build on that the next time and the next time and the next time. And so I've had that experience, but also the more you talk about something, the more you refine what you're saying
Yeah.
and building on those reps that then make that connection and connect with that audience, that
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
see those people who are kind of hanging on those words and being like, oh yeah, I love that because, or just you see the moment where
Yeah,
they
the
take
eyes
it
just
in.
light up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned Barack Obama, of course, one of the best speakers, Martin Luther King, of course, but also studied Barack Obama quite a bit because when he's giving speeches,
Pretty nice
you
guy.
really can see how he's connecting to different people, right? It's an audience that has shared values and what have you, but the way he does it is so masterful because he's saying it in different ways for people to absorb it differently
Yeah.
because we all process differently, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's an important part too that you gain from, I'm kind of validating what you said, by doing this repetitively.
Yeah.
Repetitively.
I might add to that actually. I think that too, but one of the mistakes I've seen people making is that it's the kind of being under the tyranny of volume actually.
Of what?
Of volume.
Of volume.
Because someone resonates with you after a speech and there might be just 3 people out of 100, that just hang on to that just a little bit more. If you were like, okay, I was talking about XYZ and 70 people didn't clap, I just hang in there a little bit, because I think we're just so kind of like media and everything, life around us just throws this number like, oh, if you are like a food business, if you're not in 50 states across US, that, oh, you're not successful. But I think at the same time, I've seen people who have 300 followers on Instagram, but they churn 50 million a year, because there are 30 people in there which are exactly the people they need to run that business, and that's perfectly fine.
Well, that's the thing too, and I think you said this earlier, but I think the marketing and the media aspect of it kind of fools people into thinking
Yeah,
like, oh, I need so many views and so many this and so many that. But if they're not the audience, then why does that matter?
yeah. You're just shooting
Right?
blank. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like the NASA scientists talking to kids. Like,
yes.
you can talk all day long.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
Yeah.
I love that. I've noticed that people often remember speakers who aren't, and you just really said it, the most famous or have the most followers. They're the ones that make people feel something.
Yes.
Why do you think stories connect with us more than information?
I think it's the love of oneself, I would say.
Okay.
Because from the time, where one does think, okay, what's the origin of this phenomenon of like stories? It starts from hunter-gatherer times where people would go out, hunt, come back, set up a bonfire, and tell how hard it was to kill that tiger.
Mm.
What goes into that? It's a journey of waking up in the morning, that motivation that I need to get food by the evening, otherwise children are going to starve.
Okay.
So that pulls you into go into jungle, fight the. It's, the storyline is exactly the same when you look at movies. Like you start with a bit of a story, and then an ambition kicks in,
Mm-hmm.
and then either you hunt or you get hunted or whatever. So there's a dip in the story, and then you come back and you share the kind of like a wisdom with the future generation, sitting on that kind of a bonfire. That when you go out next time to do hunting, this is what I faced in that bush or whatever. You extrapolate what story is meant then to what it is today. It hasn't changed that much
Mm-hmm.
because we what resonates people with more, and I think it's said in a very different way for a very long time, and I think people do understand, but I'll say it extremely simply that everyone in their life goes through traumas, grief. Everyone has their loved ones are gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of life. They are
Mm-hmm.
gonna be newborn children.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of that. If you are a speaker, you can capture it and project it back to someone. You got them for life.
Yeah.
Because there's just no. What else do we have if we don't have those stories? That you know, everyone has seen babies being born or children, and everyone has seen their family being dead. Everyone has seen what's the feeling of graduation, what's the feeling of buying a new car, and all of that. You because it has happened so many times,
Mm-hmm.
you can, and that's what great marketers and great speakers do. They and that's what kind of like politicians do at sometimes as well. Like they take it from there and then project it back with a kind of like a thought process. Okay, I know, when your children were born, the cost was $10,000, and I can feel it because it happened to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Me, labor XYZ politician, I'm gonna bring it back to 5,000. If I had a child who exactly, and I got through the same experience, oh my God, it's so expensive, the hospital and everything, I would resonate with that person more than
Sure.
anyone else.
Sure.
So the key is, again, knowing who you're talking to, what are their pain points and what are their experiences, and then projecting back things to them.
Yeah, and I mean, you said something that really is so true, right? In the connection is the emotion. Everybody's gone through
Yeah.
different circumstances, but the emotions are universal, right?
Everywhere.
And I think that's also for me, like I have a book project that we just worked on, and we are sharing stories. Different women are sharing stories, and that was kind of my explanation of that. These stories are all different. Everybody's path is different, but the emotions
Yeah, we all
are
share
the
that.
same, and we
Yeah.
all share that. And so you might not see yourself in exactly the circumstance that this person went through, but you were going to connect to and relate to the emotion of
Yeah.
that situation.
And to that, I always say that whether you live in San Francisco or you live in
True.
Tokyo, blood is always red.
That's true. That's true.
So there's more that connects us with the rest of humanity
Yeah.
than what separates us.
Yeah. And another thing I was thinking about as you were sharing that is, in the arts, right? And in performance, right? If you've seen, or you watch American Idol, you watch any of the Voice,
I
or
need
any
to
of the,
watch that.
yeah,
those
any
ones.
of that. Sorry, the UK, you have The Voice, right?
Yes,
You
yes,
have
in
that.
the UK they have those.
A lot of the coaches, the musical coaches will say, make me feel something, right?
Yeah.
Make me feel that in those words that you're saying. You need to feel it, so I feel it. It's
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah.
right? And it's why that you would connect to that music or that performance is because it made you feel something. So
Yeah.
I think it's just so interesting how it's so universal,
Yeah.
no matter what.
That's what loyalty is in a business as well.
Mhm.
That if you can somehow, and again, because at the same time it sounds a bit sinister, almost it is. I guess it is, but they're marketers who have spent years and years on research. That, for example, these crisps companies, they know how to hook you on that crisp. So you open up a bag of chips, and then who has opened a bag of chips, just taken one out and be like, I'm gonna close it? No one in
Nobody in
history.
the world.
No one in the world. You just want to keep on going. So it has been mastered, these things,
Yeah.
neuromarketing and all of that kind of stuff. We have great speakers who have talked about this as well. So I feel like, yes, it's fine as humans. What else can we do? I mean, for example, you're wearing red and blue, and immediately for me, I was like, oh, this is also Talks color. So there's an immediate connection there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just humans.
That's true.
And if you can use it positively for positive things, I think that is the most noble things you can do.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also a connection of I'm a master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming, and
Oh,
that gets a
amazing.
little bit of a bad rap because I think there are people who are misusing it in a
Yeah.
bad way. But it's the same idea there, right? If you can use it in a good way, it's words, right? But it's also feelings. It's okay to calm somebody down. If somebody's jittery,
Yeah.
you can do the same movement, but do it a little slower, and then a
Yes.
human will respond to that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it lowers their
It
heartbeat, lowers
works.
anxiety. So it really is all of that we're talking about
Yeah, yeah.
inside of marketing, inside of speaking, inside of sing, performing and whatnot. So I think it's just amazing.
Yes.
So we both spend time around leaders,
Yes.
business, education, government. Leadership feels very different today than it did many years ago. And I know you and I have had some conversation about this. I have some positions. What do you think leaders need most right now?
I think I would say if leaders can bring, especially like visionary leaders, if they can bring the mission statements or whatever the visions they have for their company down to different operations within businesses, I feel like that is the new kind of a mode for leadership. That also talks is ideas worth doing.
Yeah.
I started it and I know what that means for me. I need to make sure that everyone I'm speaking to, everyone who I'm curating, I don't delete their WhatsApp number after the talk is published. I'm like, that's just the start. That's ideas worth doing for me. For my editor, no, it's not that same thing. For my head of brand, that's not the same thing. For head of partnerships, not the same thing. How am I going to translate what their day to day looks like? The mission stays the same, but it looks different for every different operation. I think AI has kind of exacerbated that need even more.
Okay.
Where I'm not, so I see, I think CEOs are fine for now. I think the senior leaderships are fine for now, but the kind of like a lot of middle layer, a lot of, let's say, financial analysts, they're thinking, okay, I don't care for X company XYZ. I don't care for them. My job is in danger. So I need to, step away from that throne throne, actually, not throne, of the Game of Thrones came to my mind straight away. My head thinks in media, and
Yeah,
it's
I understand.
those things are always there. So you have to step away from that kind of a castle and stage and come back to, okay, the person who is doing the analysis for financial things, this. How can I not only help them do their job, because that's what their job.
Right.
Your job is not to be the smartest person. It has been said a
As a
million
leader.
times.
Yeah.
It has been said a bazillion times, and I think people still make a mistake on that. I think it's maybe ego or something that it's maturity. Maybe the moment you walk in and there are 15 people and you want to be like, I want to be the smartest, or I am the smartest.
You lost everybody.
Yeah, you lost everybody. The
Yeah.
moment you walk in, what can I learn from everyone here? Oh my God, people are so smart, and I've never ever taken, and this is my personal thing, I've never ever seen someone and be like, oh, it's a dumb person. Like, I don't want to talk to that person again. You just surprised the person who you might be thinking is sleepless, homeless on the street. I've at occasions I've gone on to them, not to give them money or food or something, but just to be like, because that experience is valuable to me, like what has caused them to a normal human to be that in that position. Then when I'm curating, it comes back, and I present that perspective in front of people, that perhaps what you're saying, it might not resonate with that community, because I personally have gone out, spoken to them, and I don't think so that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think that perhaps to me what leadership is, it's not some flashy cars, flashy jets. It's the moment you have the next person working for you, that's the day leaders, you work for the people who are working for you. you hire people to give you the best ideas. There are occasions where you hire people just for the task. That's perfectly great. But if you're developing a team, which we have had, the editors we had, the head of brand, and everyone, they're gone. They have been with me from say day one, and my always had job has been to what is it that they need that I can serve them, and I think that's what to me leadership is, and I feel like the need of it is slightly bit more with AI that the roles are changing everywhere now, and yes,
Yeah.
it's quite tricky how to navigate that.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I think one clarification that I'd love to state is, you know, obviously I talk about my position and my rebel leadership and how I
Of course, I
developed that
love that. Yeah.
because the experience I think in the UK, um, maybe there's a little difference of what is the experience here in the US. And I think you are 100% right. It's just that I think there's a lot of leadership, CEOs and executive leadership that don't quite get what you just explained,
In
still.
US.
And
Oh
I
wow.
think, that's born out of rebel leadership is born out of, my story of that is that my experience in the corporate world was I would lead from a place of exactly how you just explained and investing in my team, caring about them. You talked about mission statement. You want them to feel something, and
Yeah.
it can't be something you just made up. It has to be something you really believe
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and that it's threaded through your organization in every department, as you said. And I think what happens a lot of times, not all, because there are some companies who get it,
Yeah.
but I think because traditional business is shareholder, let's perform, productivity, I
Mm.
think many times ego obviously involved and money, and we have to have this and blah, blah, blah. You can be successful and profitable and still do all the things we're talking about. And quite frankly, you'll be more successful
Yes. Yes.
because you won't have people walking out the door. You'll have people who want to stay. In the age of AI, that's how you talking about this. People are afraid.
Yeah.
People are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs, right? And so how do you communicate to them that you are still invested in them
Yeah.
and that they are an important piece of the organization,
Yeah.
of their contribution matters? That's the stuff that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so I stand on my box and I say this all the time. Um, and I don't know. I think that a lot of times our standard business practice, at least in the US, it gets in the way because we're so programmed by that traditional way that companies are being run in this ultra capitalism,
Yeah. Kind of
system.
thing.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying, because I don't want people to come for me, that I don't like capitalism. Of course I do. But
Yeah.
when we are putting profits over people and we are putting all of that stuff that we're talking about
Yeah.
like it's not important,
Yeah.
I think you end up, it's a very short-sighted decision,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
It's kind of what we were talking about earlier with, do we want a transaction with a customer or do we want a customer for life and
Yeah.
loyalty? It's kind of the same with your staff.
That's what I
You
said.
know?
It's such
It's
a
the
such a
same.
valuable thing. Yeah, for life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I also want to respond to this because it was great, like you said, not saying anybody's a dumb person or the experience of somebody homeless, like, or whatever that you could learn. And you didn't say the word curious, but that is exactly the next thing that is on my question sheet. It really is about being curious and
Yeah.
staying curious. So, what does this person on my team, what ideas do they have? What
Yeah.
can I learn from them? What's their experience that's different than
Yeah.
mine? And what can I learn from that? Or what can they bring because they have a different
Yeah. Yeah.
idea? They walked a different path than we did.
Yeah.
All of those things is being curious. So this
Yeah.
is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. We live in a world where everybody seems to have an opinion,
Yes.
but curiosity seems harder to find in the general population. There are a lot of people who live that way. You
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
I do. But why do you think curiosity matters so much? And you kind of said a little bit of that, but I'm going to ask you to answer that question.
I think it's the I don't know why I'm talking about primitive human brains a lot today, but
Mm,
it is as a child, like you are just curious of what's the world out there, and I think as we grow older, the world just puts us in boxes this and boxes that.
Yes.
And I don't blame people. First of all, I really want to do say, I mean, my whole working career till date, even for future, is very much a people centric job.
Mhm.
Less to do with machines and
Yeah.
100% to do with people. And I think for me, and when I do kind of like a self analysis, it's I do love people in a way
Mhm.
that, by God, if you just sit with even the guy who makes your coffee, fascinating characters, fascinating lives. Even the most boring person will say something random, and you'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna use that for
Mhm.
my talk or something.
Mhm.
So that's one part. I think what's why curiosity is kind of missing. I think I would say there are two aspects to it. Number one, personal. Number one is and number two, societal. Personal, I would say, and I'm not like a health coach or anything, but I'll say that if you maybe this is the kind of a self-reflection that I feel that there's something to do with eating, sleeping, and all of that just drains the energy away. That you're not there to have that kind of energy to be curious. I have that feeling
Hmm.
because sometimes you feel like you tend to learn about things when you have that energy to do it or not.
Mm.
If you're constantly like, I have to wake up at 7, I have to be at office at 9, I have to be at 5, and then do this and do that and do that, you're such in a kind of like a cycle of things that it doesn't allows you to be curious. So I think some part of that, and the second part is the societal that, especially let's say in economy. I mean, we're in New York recording this. It's a circuit. It's 24/7. And I think allowing yourself to kind of step back a little bit and
Yeah.
then reflect. Okay, what's happening there? What It's a privilege. I'm not gonna sit here and tell people, or for your daily, just take 4 hour breaks and talk to people randomly. It's not possible. You got obligations.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think part of the grind that we
Yeah,
are in, and I think no matter where you live and where you work, I think that's something that everybody has to wrestle with and come
yeah.
to navigate. I think maybe you didn't use this word, but maybe it's about intentionally being present in the moment, right?
It's
Is
very
to
hard.
be,
Very hard, I would say.
yeah,
I
it's
think you have to.
hard to
It's a
be when you're
privilege. It's
having,
a
and
privilege.
it is. But what I would also say is that, being curious is also in the little moments, that you're
Yes.
getting your coffee, like you said, and everybody's getting their coffee going to work.
Yeah, I
It
have
could
an.
be a 2-minute conversation with somebody that you just allow yourself to.
I'll tell you a very interesting story. What happened to me last night? So I'm walking back to my hotel, and then my partner and I we just stopped at an ice cream shop, and on the way out we saw like there was such a large queue, and I was like, okay, on the way back we'll just check it, take a look. So we are in the queue, and I'm like, okay, it's just normal ice cream, and that's what it is. And she's looking at the order, and I'm just, as I do, I'm just looking at
Looking
people.
around.
And guess who I popped
Who?
into? John Hamm from Mad Men.
Get out. Really?
Yes, I did. So I took a picture with him last night, and he's out with his dog. His name is Murphy, with his
He
wife,
talked
and
to you?
yeah, I spoke to him,
Fantastic.
and I told Vicky afterwards, I was like, no one here. I'm surprised as hell. Mad Men was such a huge series, and I think he won a couple of Golden Globes as
Yeah, and
well.
he's in a
He's
series now that's
Yeah, yeah,
popular.
he's
Yeah.
very popular, and I was like, and I'm surprised like no one is talking to him. Like, and I just spotted him right outside the door, and I'm just chatting to him, and he's like, he told me he was born in Midwest, and he's home is between LA and New York and everything. Just out of curiosity, I'm just looking at who's here.
Amazing.
But even the staff at the ice cream at they couldn't. I was like, how's that possible?
Well, I mean, I live in New Jersey, but I worked in this city for 20 years and
Yes.
I spend a lot of time here now in business. I'm here most weeks. And I think it's a little bit of the way this city works. I think firstly, everybody's in the grind.
Yes. Yes.
And I think also there are a lot of famous people that are walking around amongst us. But, if you're not looking up,
Yeah. Yeah.
you kind of don't notice. And
Yeah.
I also think part of it is, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but this is my own feeling. Working here, I saw a lot of famous people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was very hesitant a lot of times to acknowledge them because I didn't want to bother
Yeah,
them, or I
yeah.
didn't want to be that person. I wanted to, you know what I mean? And I was just telling this story the other day, and there were a couple of people. I'll tell you who. Will Smith, as a matter of fact,
Oh wow.
we were like not saying anything, but we were looking at him, and he's like, "Are you guys gonna say hello?" Like he was like welcoming
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So I think it's those two
Yeah,
things
yeah,
that
yeah.
people are kind of head down, not really, or because it's part of this ecosystem, it's so
Yeah, yeah.
common. Maybe people, and sometimes they blend in,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
they're trying to, they're not like with a hat, like they're just like, I'm not going to I'm not going to be inconspicuous,
Yeah.
But I think it's what we're talking about also is that people just not being present,
I would add to that. It's like whatever you want in life, and I think New York is just like the best example. You can ask the universe for it.
Yeah.
Last time when I was here, I literally just bumped into Eddie Q from Apple. He. If you look at the hierarchy chart, I think
Yeah.
as of today, Tim Cook, and I think there's someone else, and then it's Eddie Q. He's the head of like Apple division for TV or something, and. It was right after the I think 50th anniversary. So last night that had happened, and I actually had needed a laptop, so I bought that. I'm just walking down and I see him and I was like, Eddie from Apple. He's like, oh yeah. And we ended up having a chat. And I got his email and I was like, okay, Eddie, would you love to do a podcast? He's like, it would be great. Now I'm just finishing a couple of other things this year, but I would love to do it. So hopefully one day
So he's going to be on your
yeah,
podcast.
hopefully.
Fantastic.
But it's the same thing. I had curiosity of just watching what's
Right.
happening and the audacity to, I mean, what's the worst thing going to happen? He's just going to say no.
Right. Well, I think it is that, but it's also, just being observant, my son always says to me, stop looking at people. I'm like, I have to
Maybe
look around.
yeah.
I have to, right?
Yes, yeah.
But to quote, are you a Ted Lasso fan?
Oh, I have seen the
Oh, yeah,
seasons.
okay.
Yes,
So
yes. I
Ted
have.
Lasso says, and there's a very famous scene, if you're not aware, go watch it,
Yeah.
where he talks about how someone should have been curious because he ended up thinking that he had no competition
Oh, in the dart
with
scene?
the dart scene.
Yes,
And
yes.
he explained as
Yeah,
he beat him
Yeah.
very, very badly
Yeah.
how or why. And he said, you should have been curious.
Yeah.
But it's funny. The other thing that I wanted to share was I had one of my acquaintances, colleagues, if you will. She said one time, she made a comment. She's like, I hate small talk. And I was like, you do? I
Oh, we
love
British
small
love it.
talk. I love small talk. I go, even like on the grocery line, you just get into a conversation. And if you're present and curious,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
a great conversation that kind of actually, and again, you said it's a privilege, but it actually is a boost because you get that connection with someone
Yeah, yeah.
and you get this great exchange. And it was funny because working here in Manhattan can really drain you. And I remember coming back one time from vacation and I walked out of Port Authority and I was like, oh, I just had a bad attitude, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it's the go, go, go and whatever. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I am going to start conversations with people. I'm going to say hello because it's just draining me to just be in this, sink of
Yeah.
go and the gloom and doom and whatever and the grind.
Yeah.
And I remember it was kind of a social experiment where, a lot of times I would take a cab and get in the cab and tell the driver where I was going. And I would say, how you doing today? And at first they would be like,
Conversation?
you talking to me?
Are you
Right?
talking to me?
And sometimes they wouldn't really respond. And
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not going to be a conversation today. But sometimes they're like, oh, I'm doing great. How are you? Great. And then we get into this conversation. 9 times out of 10, somebody would engage.
People are nice. People are nice.
9 times
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
10, somebody would engage. And it was the best experiment. And it also taught me that doing that, it really changes the whole dynamic, not just for you, but also for
them,
somebody
yeah.
else. And you said sometimes it could be this tidbit you get, sometimes it could just be a great conversation
Yeah.
that just sets your day off differently. So I think it's something that being intentional as best you can in those little moments, I think is great. And that's come back to being curious. And I think curiosity is a required leadership skill.
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt. If you are sitting in the ivory tower, I've got the there's I think people, I don't know, maybe people don't have it, but I think some people have this thing of like there's an end of line to things. The only end of line is death, seriously. Apart from that, like you don't think that just because you manage this quarter okay, the next five are gonna be okay. No, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
You got to keep on going.
Yeah.
So I think having that kind of attitude, and I think, let's say, even small things which I have personally learned from the speakers that have come on to do the talks. They share the experiences during curation. They tell me like this has happened and that happened, and I've taken them inside, like small things. For example, not not taking things as a whole. For example, if you were tasked to do something and you know it's going to take 6 months to do it, start thinking about 6 months. You're never going to get it done. Start thinking about, okay, what can we get done in next hour,
Mm-hmm.
and be your 100% there. You'd be it's like the compounding of things as the money goes, but the same for the effort. Like small talk here, and especially for me, and we were mentioning about curiosity. It I have to do it. I feel like, because for me to be able to, so I don't use, let's say, AI. No curation session I've ever done was run through AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very human to human
Yeah,
conversation, and
absolutely.
then I can't. I literally, I'm in a live conversation. I can't be like, okay, let me take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Never ever done that. But to top up my own kind of a knowledge, I have to keep a pulse on culture.
Agreed.
What's happening? Talk to the banker. Talk to the
Absolutely.
taxi driver. Literally, those two professions, I've exactly done that. And one guy's like, oh, New Jersey is the place to be, really. It's like, oh, this is where, all the up and coming is be. And I was speaking to a banker today. He's like, oh, Brooklyn is up and coming. And I was like, is it Brooklyn is up and coming? I thought, how culture is Brooklyn up, it's here. And he's like, no, it's just up and coming. So I was like, again, I'm curious why he said that. And I'm going to go find like new things.
Mm-hmm.
So it cascades into things. And next time a speaker comes who are probably maybe from Brooklyn, I'll have a great conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I spent so many years here working, and now, like, if you just Google top 10 restaurants in New York City, 4 of them are in Brooklyn.
Really?
And
And
I don't know a lot about Brooklyn. I've been, of course, but I don't I know New
isn't it
York
like a
like the
huge
back of my
cultural
hand.
thing with Brooklyn and Queens? Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, Brooklyn, I think what's happened, and again, I'm not an expert, but from what I know, there's been redevelopment of certain
mm,
neighborhoods that have kind of become very bougie, and
yeah,
and I think that that's part of it as well. I think, um, even the people are saying about New Jersey, because Jersey City, they built up the whole
yeah.
Riverside.
I
I mean,
came
that's a
through it.
that's a
Yeah.
business hub. Like, that wasn't like that 10, 15, 20 years ago at all.
That's a
So
great alternative. Isn't it called Wall Street West now? Isn't it?
yes.
Yeah. They
Yes, it
call
is.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look at it, it looks like that too, because
Yeah,
there's just as many big buildings and whatnot.
yeah.
So, for what it's worth, it's like being curious, right? Like, I say that to some people about the restaurants, and they're like, "Really?" And they kind of diss it, like, "No." Like, they don't believe it.
It's history.
But it's like, you kind of
Yeah.
have to look at it and
Yeah.
then see for yourself and then check it out,
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
again, I've had the privilege of partnering with you and Oxford Talks at both
Pleasure.
Oxford and Harvard. And now we'll be working together again at the World Economic Forum. And these are incredible institutions. I've noticed what really matters, though, isn't, and we've talked about this a little bit here today, isn't the venue. It's
No.
the conversations that happen there. Do you agree? And talk to me about what those conversations in terms of global leadership, innovation, collaboration, diverse perspectives, what that can bring to the conversation around leadership and also just changing things
Yeah.
and changing people's
I
minds.
I think those institutions. I think when people come and do the work with us, I think what they are essentially, as you said, like they are 90% of the task is to deliver, to connect with the audience, deliver something really remarkable that people are gonna sort of resonate with. But in the kind of a digital realm, the way things are, like the moment you click on a video, even Instagram, YouTube, whatever, there's an element, and which this is a theory that we operate with, is people start with 100% of trust.
Mm-hmm.
That they look at the caption, they look at thumbnail. Okay, I'm gonna click on this selfishly because there's something there for me. What these institutions do and that association is that it immediately gives you that identity. That, and I was just saying to someone else that recently, and you are an Oxford Talks fellow as well,
Yes.
bit of a plug in here. Fellows are people who have done talks at both Oxford and Harvard. in what happened last month was that the people who did talk at Oxford, less than a month later, they ended up doing a talk at Harvard. And I'm like, now that is an identity I don't think so anyone else has. No prime minister, I don't think so, has done it. No president has done it. No football star, no anything. You. Now it's up. You have that identity by the sheer kind of like association with us. That okay, we
Mm-hmm.
have delivered that straight to
Yeah.
that to you, but that's just 5 to 10% of it. If
Yeah.
the talk is not great, again, you're a NASA scientist talking to kids, speaking at the Kennedy Space Center, it doesn't
Yeah.
make anything.
Yeah.
But so I think it the institutions, they you borrow that identity, you add to that.
Right.
So that's why curation is very important. Because we are not Oxford University associated, we are not
Right.
Harvard associated, we're not
Right.
World Economic Forum associated, but we work with them. We work with these brands quite closely, and we want to make sure that that association stays kind of relevant. Like we don't say things that are kind of disparaging to us or them or to anyone
Mm-hmm.
as per se. That's why curation is very important. But in terms of leadership, I would say that have that identity, but at the same time, use that platform for everyone has a vision in their life. I think if you are a leader, if you are privileged enough to be a CEO or a C-suite executive of any kind of company, there's just take that burden as a kind of a badge of honor that you are responsible for 30 people, 50 people, 100, thousands, 10,000, whatever it needs to be. You get in the service mode
Yeah.
straight away.
Yeah.
I've heard, people have talked about Brian Chesky as founder mode. That is great as well. But the moment part of founder mode is service mode.
Mm-hmm.
Be in the service mode from the get-go. The moment you get handed down the position, the moment you start a company, the day you think that you're going to start a company to make money, I think money is an outcome. You serve your local community first. If the business, I don't know, if a cafe, serve the 50 people around you, then open up statewide stores and then go international or whatever. So I think that what I would say that I think leadership, and I think maybe social media is to blame, that is portrayed as business jets, corporate black Amex cards, all of that. It's a very small perk.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a very small part, and it isn't the main event,
Not at
right?
all.
And
Yeah.
I'm not the first to say this, but I'll say it, and then give him credit. Leadership is not being in charge;
Yeah.
it's serving the people that are in your charge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's leading them, and it's a complete flip flop. It's not about a title. It's not about a private jet. It's not about a black card or whatever. It's not about that at all. It's not about that position. And the people who I did a talk on there, that's a lie.
Yeah.
It's not a title. It's not authority. And I think people who lead from that place, they miss a lot of times the outcomes that they're looking for
Yeah.
because they're focused on that. So, yeah, it's about serving. And it's, I was asked one time to give a talk about leadership to people who were not leaders. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about that's going to resonate with them? And I thought, well, my whole belief is that you don't have to have a leadership title to be a leader. Some of the
Not at
best
all.
leaders that I've seen in companies, my clients, and companies I've worked with and for, are people that don't have that title officially,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So with that, okay, let's focus on what are like the 4 most important things. Oh, the 4 most important things is to actually care about them.
Yeah.
Provide support, give them an environment, an opportunity where, number one, you're investing in them and they're also able to make mistakes and learn
Yeah.
without punitive damage,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so opposite to the model that we see,
Yeah.
at least in this country, in corporate America. So that's the base. That's
And-
it. And if you think about yourself
Yeah.
working hard for someone, it's someone who had all those things for you. They had your best interest at heart. They supported you. They cared about you. They invested in you.
Yeah.
And they stood in your belief gap. They believed in you before you believed in yourself.
Yeah. And I might add to that, and I think that's why we loved working with you. I would say that as well. I think
Thank
that's
you.
where the rebel leadership and every work you do, because it's always like I connected with you first, and the idea is literally was that okay, if this is the vision you have regarding leadership, and for us, I know for a lot of people, because a lot of there are less people in C-suite in the world than they are or in the kind of middle management. For them, they're not interested in, let's say, what the C-suite problems are, what leadership problems are there. But I try very hard to make this point come across to everyone in the kind of public that you gotta be you gotta be part of that conversation, like how your leaders operate.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being is that, and I this comes from an operational thing, and we were curating a talk where the speaker has actually helped like with a merger in Netherlands with like a very big telecom, and it literally switched the customer base overnight from I think 5 million to 30 million. And I'm like, 30 million customers are gonna use this product, and it's so personal. If you're a person like I am who cares about design, every time that you do something, it reflects in each and everything that you do. And if you don't, that will reflect as well. The leadership, if you are at the top and suddenly your vision is going to translate into a product used by 30 million people, that's why we feel like partnering with someone like you yourself and your thoughts are so important, because you're targeting things right at the inception, right at the top. You can't change a mass change. Doesn't happen from like in a company at the bottom, it happens from the top. So I think that's why we got behind that idea that leadership is a genre that we kind of need to attack
Yeah.
with these values, because when they make bad decisions, it's not just them; countries suffer.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so for us, it's an indirect kind of approach to serving kind of like a mass audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Well, thank you. All right. So as we wrap up, I always like to ask a few questions that are reflective. So, all right. When people leave after viewing an Oxford talk, what is it that you hope stays with them? And I know that might be hard to answer because it depends on the topic, but
Yes.
why don't you try to give me the 50,000-foot view?
Reaching out to the person whose talk have they just seen. I think if they can get that kind of audacity to do that, that would be great. Don't forget about liking, sharing, commenting, whatever. That stays. Our account gets blocked. We don't never know what happened there. But if you connect with that person and you
Making
reach
that
out to
connection.
that, we try very much, especially in person, in live connection. I think that's what stay with people forever. So if we can do that at scale, with 10 million people are watching these things, and reaching out, Maria, I saw your video, and I would love to talk to you about this. That's end game for us.
Beautiful. Well, I always finish every episode asking my guests the same question. And as you know, this came up earlier, but as you know, my show is called Finding the Upside. And the whole premise is that life is not always easy.
Yes.
Leadership certainly isn't. Building something meaningful isn't either. When you look back over your own journey, what was the biggest upside that you never saw coming? You mentioned earlier that sometimes in a journey it's a failure, but it's not necessarily a loss. That has credit and that has ability. What's the biggest thing, the upside that you never saw coming, whether that was a negative or that you learned from or something that surprised you?
I think that micro thing that I told you about, that not thinking of no problem is as big as no happiness is as small. But sometimes think you can celebrate small things in a big way, and you can scale down big problems in a small, tackle them in a small way. There was a time, and I'll tell you this, that and I think my departure from TED wasn't like an easy departure. We had like a conflict there where we ended up, we wanted to serve it more, but we were under kind of like a different contract, and it didn't allow us to do that. So it was like it was just a crossroads, and overnight we changed everything. That this is not how we want to work, and because TED is an international organization, so for me it was a very stressful week. And I kid you not, I think I'm someone who can never say in their life that I'm a self-made person. I think those words would never be uttered by me. You would be surprised at random, and it's just been the case for my life. I've been so privileged to be in the right rooms. There was just so much help given to me by random people that I just cannot feel that. And I think my obligation is always to the kind of like mass public. So that's why we never hide behind any of the Oxford Talks content behind like a paywall. And that was a very deliberate decision because this is for the masses. Just learn from it, connect with people. This is for you. So I think that's the same thing that when the TED thing happened, a random friend, she just called me and she's like, "Obviously, like it's fine." Like what? I was like, "No, the whole thing is class." Like da, da, da. It's fine. I mean, people came for you, and I was like, "No, they came for the brand." Like she's like, "No, not really." She's like, "Do you really think?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I went through your exercise. I mean, I don't really care, Ted, whatever, but I enjoyed working with you." And I was like, "Oh, so she's like, just call it, I don't know, something like Oxford Talks or whatever." That's
She gave you the name?
That's the inception.
Really?
She's like, I was in Oxford, and I was like, she's like, just call it Oxford Talks, and they're called TED Talks. Just call it Oxford Talks and just start it.
And so here you were thinking leaving TEDx and
Yeah.
all of that was a setback.
Yeah. It was,
Well, you know what they say, at least hopefully you've heard this expression. Sometimes a setback is just a setup for a comeback.
Yeah. And luckily, I think we haven't had any major setbacks since then, and I think fingers crossed. But I think to me, it's the same situation now. I think sometimes happens in productions, like, oh, the camera might not work and all
Sure.
of that. So it was the first time when we were at Harvard. We had a bit of a miscommunication that we didn't have the makeup artist. I thought there is a makeup artist, and then the person is saying, "Oh, like, oh, you need makeup." And then the production guy there, he's like, "Oh, I know someone, I can do it." And so we ended up working together, and it's so like life is just full of these incidents where random people came in, and so yeah, I'm forever in debt to that. So yeah, I just feel like when you have successes and all of those things, that cockiness kicks in.
Yeah, and
For me, it just cannot have, never.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, obviously I've had so many of those, more than I can mention in even an hour, where it would be like, oh God, I think this
Things
is
are
bad.
finished,
And then
yeah.
you're like, no, it's not, because it led me to this next step, or
Yeah.
it led me to this next thing. But, and that's the whole premise of this podcast is there's always an upside. Finding it is often the challenge. And you
Yeah.
really have to have that attitude
Be
that
curious.
it's not be
Yeah,
curious.
yes.
And this isn't like a catastrophe. It's like, okay, let me be open and curious to what's coming or what's next or what I was supposed to learn from that. And that is what gets you to the other side.
100%. 100% agree.
Well, Waleed, thank you. This has been such a pleasure. Thanks for joining me here. And thank
Yes.
you for all you shared. It's a great conversation.
Pleasure is all mine, and I absolutely loved it. I think we should do more and more of these.
Let's do that.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And for everyone, thanks for joining us today. I hope to see you next time on the next episode of Finding the Upside.